Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's been quite a while since I posted, and you know the summer kind of gets the best of you. You got a lot of other stuff to do, and you know I got some work to do here today. It's on my daily driver actually. It's not going to be the S14, so for anyone who's been following that series, sorry, but there will be videos coming soon. Probably something to do with the e-throttle and the steering system on it. But anyways. This car here, yes, 2002 Subaru Legacy. These are the ones that came with the EJ206 and 208 engine in it. This is the automatic transmission version, and so I've been driving it for a couple years. It's a really good vehicle, nice twin turbo. It's got a bit of pep, but you know it's the wagon version, great for getting around. Anyways, there's a bit of an issue with it, and that is specifically the CV boot. So if you're driving around and you come park it and you get out and you kind of can smell a burning rubbery smell, you might think, oh, it's probably just my tires. Turns out it probably isn't. Take a look under. You might find that you need to replace the CV boot. Just look for some grease. You'll probably find it on the heat shield of the turbo. There's the smell. So for me, the CV boot that I need to replace, it's over on the passenger side. Now this is a right-hand drive vehicle, so passenger side, the left side there. And I'll just try and get under here and give you a quick look at what you're going to find if this is your problem. So right there, you can see the CV joint, you can see the boot, you can see the tear in it, grease right there. It's a little hard to see, but grease on the heat shield and up top on the turbo there. So yeah, a lovely mess to clean up, but let's quickly get to it. First step, get that car jacked up, safely secured. Make sure it, you know, wiggle it around, make sure the car isn't coming down on you. And before you jack it up, make sure you loosen off those lug nuts a bit too, so it's easier to get the wheel off. Get it off, and you're going to go right for the axle nut there. You can see there's a little indent on it. You're going to pry that one out, and then get your socket and get it off. So once you've got the axle nut off, you're going to actually move right over here to the stabilizer link. That's a 14 mil bolt there, and or 14 mil nut, I mean. And right inside, you can see there's a hex inside there. That's a 5 mil hex. So use that combination to loosen that off and remove it. Once you've got that stabilizer link off, you're going to move up here and you're going to remove this bolt right here and that bolt right there so that we can take the hub off from the suspension. So as soon as those bolts come out, it's going to come free and it's going to swing right down. Just kind of rest right here, maybe support it if you are a little worried about it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go down here, push the drive shaft through, and then you're going to remove it from the hub here. Okay, so we've got it pulled out. You can see got a cloth here just protecting the spindle, but it's all loose. One other thing I had to do was there's this little retainer here that holds the brake lines right onto there. So I undid that one. It's just a 12 mil nut, and that gave me enough room to pull this down and free the drive shaft from it. Okay, so right up next to the transmission where the CV axle, the drive axle meets up with it, you can see there is a little dot there. That is a spring pin. It's a 6mm spring pin, or roll pin, some people call them too. You are going to need to get a punch. I use a 3/16 punch, and that should be enough to hammer that out. So once the spring pin comes loose from there, it's going to be pretty simple to remove the drive axle. Just support it and gently pull it out from the transmission side. And if all goes well, you should have your drive axle out. You can inspect all the damage, and then you can get on to cleaning up underneath the car. So I spent the last probably half hour cleaning out all the grease. Here is the damage. I like to use kind of a little shoe tray, a cheap one, just to catch all the drippings. So take your time, clean up all the grease, get yourself a good degreaser. That was one of the heat shields that was caked. This here's the other one. You can see there's some stuff that's still burnt onto there. Tried my best to scrape it off, but you're not going to get a perfect job. That's okay. And then make sure you clean up the transmission side there, and you should be good to start rebuilding. So get your drive shaft onto the workbench, and you're going to want to give it a little bit of a clean up the axle there and right there, because what you're going to do is you're going to put a little mark right here and a little mark right here, just so when you go to put it back together, it goes back to the same spot. I like to use a little paint marker. Just put a little yellow mark right there and right there to line it up. So to remove these bands here, you're just going to get a screwdriver and pry up the two sides right there, and that'll release it. And then you're going to go here and do the exact same. So once you got the clips off, that one will be right there. This one hangs on the shaft. Now you're going to take the boot and you're going to move this side over, and inside you're going to find yourself a little circlip that we're going to have to remove. Inside here in the housing, you're going to see a little spot where you can pry the circlip with a screwdriver. Right there, you can kind of see it popping out. So do that, take it out, and we'll move on. So once you get that circlip off, it's you're just going to put it to the side, clean it up, and you're going to be left with the trunnion and the outer race here. Clean up the outer race, remove as much grease as you possibly can, and then you're going to start cleaning up the trunnion here. Now on the trunnion, you've got these rings on here, and what you're going to want to do is mark some alignment marks. So put 1, 2, and then on the other side do 3. That just is good practice when you go to put it back together. Okay, next step, you're going to move down to the trunnion here, and once again you're going to put a little alignment mark right onto the shaft there, and then we're going to take off that snap ring and pull it off from the shaft. When all is said and done, you should be left with the outer race there. You've got your trunnion with its alignment mark on there, drive shaft, it's got the alignment mark on there. This snap ring that we'll probably just discard because there's new ones that came with the new boot, are a nice torn up boot, the bands, circlip, and then the rings. So that's everything. So we're going to get back to assembling it now. So reassembly is going to be quite simple. You're going to slide on the small band, the boot, then the large band, put the circlip on there, put the trunnion back onto the shaft, make sure those marks are, let's get that focused, make sure those are aligned right there, and then you're going to put the snap ring on and make sure it's well inside that groove. Next, you're going to take the grease that was supplied. You're going to put about 100 grams into the outer race, and then the rest you're going to use to grease up on the trunnion here before you realign the rings. Now you're going to want to make sure once you've put the trunnion back together and slide it into the outer race, make sure you get that circlip in there and that once again it is well within the groove. And then you're going to take the leftover grease that you still have and you're going to line the inside of the boot just to make sure it's well lubricated. After that, make sure when you put it together that these marks that you put on the shaft, they line up. And then we'll move on to crimping down the bands. To tighten down these bands, you're going to need to get yourself a pair of these CV joint boot clamp pliers. You can probably find them on Amazon or at any of your parts stores. And they're going to ensure that we get a nice crisp crimp on this band. So once that's done, make sure you kind of just flatten this out a bit and then repeat on the smaller band. And at that point, this drive shaft is good to go back into the car. So we're going to just pretty much the same as how we uninstalled it. We're going to line the splines up and make sure that that hole lines up with the hole that's also on the transmission side. And that's so we can put a new spring pin inside it. So it really is that simple. You're going to just insert the shaft back in there, hammer in that spring pin. Like I said, use a brand new one. Once that's installed in there, you can then pull the drive shaft through here, put the lock nut on just loose for now. You're going to tighten down these two bolts here, and then move down to the stabilizer link, add that one on there. Don't forget the brake hose, attach it there. And then the last thing to do is really just tighten up this lock nut. So the easiest way to do this is to actually get someone to sit in the car and step on the brakes. And while they're stepping on the brakes, you're going to then take your torque wrench and tighten this down all the way. And when it's all said and done, hammer down into that little slot or groove, whatever you want to call it, to lock it in place. And that's it.